Hi, we're
Hey
back.
everybody, this is Susie and Kristen with Ready, Set, Treat, and we wanted to check in with you about the very first section of our pocket guide, which is going to come out very soon. But the first thing we talk about is choosing a business name. So we thought we'd tell you a little bit about some of our business names. So, Kristen, why don't you go first with yours?
Sure. So my business name is Seacoast Playworks Therapy. It is honestly not my first choice. I came up with like the best name ever, and it was taken in our state's database, which I was so bummed about. It even had a cute acronym and everything. So then I came up with like version 2, 3, 4, 5. They were all okay, but kind of similar to existing businesses too. And for the last one, right before I chose Seacoast Playworks, I actually had to write a letter to another business owner that had a similar name. And then in the meantime, I just came up with this and went with it. So it was kind of like half impulsive and half as a result of the process I had to go through to get here.
All right. And how do you feel about the length of your name, Kristen?
I feel like it's a little too long.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a little too long. I have to say it to insurers. I have to say it, my email
You
is
say it over and over and over to people.
constantly, and they're like, is Playworks one word or two words? It's like having a really confusing last name, you know, when you have to like spell it all the time.
At least all the words are easy to spell, I guess.
Yeah, so it's okay. It's fine. It does the job. And in general, I'd say clients know me mostly as Kristen Goodrich, and they know that possibly I'm related to Seacoast Playworks Therapy, but it's not a huge deal,
Right.
In the end.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, Kristen, because a lot of people actually just choose to use their name, like Susie Curtis, LLC, as a business name. But that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that I had a name that stood out. I planned on going big places with that name, which I kind of have. So I wanted to come up with a name that meant a lot to me from like a nostalgic standpoint. And I grew up in the 80s when 80s rock was super popular. And I'm sure you've heard of the extreme song More Than Words. And so I decided to use More Than Words Counseling Services as my full name. I also feel like it's very long, More Than Words Counseling Services, PLC. But we often just refer to it as More Than Words, or my husband actually has shortened it to MT Dubs or MTW. So that's what we use for shorthand. But know that you have to write the full length of your name and all of your paperwork, all of your documentation, etc., even correspondence, unless you're going to do a doing business as when you apply for your business information. And then you could write maybe More Than Words instead of the whole thing. But I didn't do that because I didn't know that at the time. I was just in the exact same place you are in starting your own business. And to me, the phrase More Than Words is important because with mental health, counseling is more than words. It's actions, it's behaviors, it's coping skills, it's nonverbal communication. So I felt like More Than Words was a good fit for the mental health field for a solo private practice.
Yep. And the other thing to keep in mind is checking on the internet to see if the website's taken, the domain.
Yes, good idea.
Because there were a couple businesses we've both come up with that had domains that were taken, and you'd have to actually pay a person who has the domain parked somewhere, who has bought that name. You'd have to pay them like $2,000, which I'm not willing to do.
Not worth it.
So then I would just come up with a new name. So you have to make sure the name isn't taken at the state level if that's what you're doing. With PLLCs, you need to make sure the domain isn't taken. You can check out Gmail, see if it's taken there. And you can tweak it. You could always add like, if Seacoast Playworks Therapy was taken, I could throw an NH at the end of it as well. So there are ways around it.
What we don't recommend, though, is... I think we just cut it off so there's ways around it, and that's the end of the video.
Oh my God. Is it still
we're
going?
still recording.
Awesome.
But I think that's it.